Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Audio Wave Network studios in the city, powered by the Eastside Community Network and sponsored by the Ford Foundation. Now, a content partner to BridgeDetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the east side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. We drop a new episode every week, so be sure to turn on those notifications. Joining us in the studio today is Denzel McCampbell. Denzel is a former city charter commissioner and a candidate for Detroit City Clerk. He also serves as the comms director to Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Denzel, thank you for taking the time. We know you're busy. Welcome back to Authentically Detroit.
Oh, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
We're really glad you're here.
We're really glad you're here. We got
questions.
A lot of questions to ask you, sir. But, you know, we're back in the studio after a couple of weeks. We haven't been in the studio in a couple of weeks. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Donna?
Oh, I'm doing well. I think I was in the studio 2 weeks ago. You weren't.
Actually, 2 weeks ago, we were on Zoom together.
Oh, okay.
So the week before, you were in the studio.
All right. You are right. It's 3 weeks ago when I was here by myself, solo.
I'm sorry.
But no, we were.
I took a vacation.
I know. That's great. I was really happy you took a vacation. It was it was a good day for you. I mean, you needed that time off. And then, we went to Mackinac.
I know.
In the center.
Did you Mackinac well? How did you Mackinac? Did it go?
So, I don't want to offend anybody by this, but when I'm in Mackinac, I always feel like we are in the presence of white gays everywhere we go. And
you're just like on alert the
so
whole
you're on
time.
alert, and black people, some of us are on alert, and some of us are performative under white gays, and but you can never just relax and be yourself because, you worry about everything you do. And
it's so stressful.
And
it
then,
really is.
Sometimes some of the speakers were great. Some of them, I'm not going to name speakers, but some of them were ridiculous. And some of them were just plain bad. I mean, I don't really get a lot of that. But what I get out of Mackinac is an opportunity to see people who are trying to make a difference and connect with people in different realms. And this time,
so tell our listeners why we were in Mackinac. Like, what was the event?
That's what I was just about to tell. Well, we were sponsored. We were there, sponsored by the Ford Foundation. I believe it was the Ford, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We were there for Authentically Detroit. It was an Authentically Detroit journey. And so we had an opportunity to interview 3 amazing people.
But the context of the event. So this is the Mackinac Policy Conference that's put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Keep going.
I'm sorry. The Mackinac Policy Conference that is put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber. And someone asked me earlier, why do you go? I go because I don't think people should be able to drive 4 miles away from Detroit and have a conference they call a policy conference and have people like me not show up.
You better
to
understand
at least witness what it's saying and to hopefully impose some level of accountability because they know that people like us are there. So it is not for me. I used to go to some of the parties, but I don't really like, drinking like that. And I don't like hanging out like that and partying with people. So for me, I was just tired. So I would have gone to one of the best receptions I've seen out there. And that was the one that was held by Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance, NAACP, and Black Leaders Detroit. I missed probably the best thing there other than the reception for Angelique Powers.
That was really good too.
Skillman Foundation. Those are the 2 things I wish I had done that I couldn't make Angelique's reception because I teach on Monday nights. And
where you teach at?
You're going to do this every time, Mr.
Every time.
Emmy Award
Every time I'm going to do that.
Orlando Bailey. Yes, I teach at Columbia University.
Just saying.
And so...
Can we get an applause right there? We go. JG is on it.
So Monday evenings, there's no substitute teachers where I'm from. I had to be there. And plus, at Columbia, in your first 3 weeks, you get an evaluation. So you want to be evaluated well. Like how
a student eval or
the students evaluate you.
Wow.
That's their first evaluation, and then there's an evaluation at the end of the class.
I used to pay some of my professors back on that evaluation. Let me tell you.
I know.
I was ready for that one.
So I had to get the love, but I missed the Black Leaders Detroit. I want to talk about that, Orlando. What was that like?
So Charity Dean at Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance and DeWine Dandridge CEO of Black Leaders Detroit, and Camila Landrum, the executive director of the Detroit chapter of the NAACP, wanted to hold brave space for the Black folks that go to the policy conference to come commiserate, talk, and, you know, share ideas and share learnings, right? And so there is one Black owned restaurant on Mackinac Island, and that's where we met. And it was a beautiful, beautiful space. One of the cool things, but also one of the things that triggers me sometimes is how accessible everybody is. Like everybody, people in power, people that we normally only see on the news, you can walk right up to them and have conversations. They're your peer there, right? And so every, you know, Black person in the chambers of power in Detroit and in Michigan is at this reception and just sharing ideas and having, you know, like real talk and dialogue and fellowship. And it was really, really great. Dewan Dandridge, we actually interviewed Dewan Dandridge on Mackinac Island, and we're going to be and a few other folks will be releasing those interviews pretty soon. But he got up and he made a speech, right? Because it was mostly us in the room, but there were a few white folks in the room. And so Dewan Dandridge got up and said, let's give our white allies a hand for being here. And so Black folks, we kind of reluctantly started clapping. He was like, I want you guys to receive this applause because I'm getting ready to give you some instruction. And one of his main point was, especially when it comes to doing work in the city of Detroit, and we all know the demographic makeup in Detroit, he said, submit to Black leadership. Don't try to come in and lead. Don't try to come in and be out front. There are Black people that are capable of leading this work in the city of Detroit. Submit to that leadership. And I was like, oh my God, did he just say that? Yes, he did just say that. And so it was a great atmosphere, one of love, one of fellowship, and one of exchange, right? I think people learned something. And I think the comments by Charity, Dewan, and Camila served as an impetus for deeper conversation, especially with some of the white allies in the room. It was a great time, Donna.
So, you know, I saw people posting about it. I listened to Dewan talk about it, and I was just blown away. I really was happy to be able to interview him about that. And then earlier today, I saw something that Tawana Nikompetti had posted or shared at a conference at UCLA, I believe, on challenging anti-Black racism, ending the option to opt out, where she talks about the difference between solidarity, allyship, co-conspirator, accomplice, and co-liberation. And this concept that people can work their way into functioning independently to fight for Black lives and to be allies. But you're more than an ally. You're a co-liberator. I would love to have Tawana on to have her explain her. She's so brilliant. I love listening. I could listen to her speak just, you know, nonstop. But I would love to have her here and explain that chart, because I think it's all absolutely the truth that people need to learn how to submit to Black leadership.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Tawana listens to this show. So Tawana, you are invited. And I've seen her do that presentation before. I think she was at University of Michigan, and I've seen her do it another time. Every single time she talks about that co-liberation and dialogue, co-conspiratorship, all that diagram is so brilliant. And that's her work, right? Yes. That's the diagram that she developed and that she is cascading in the ether. And so Tawana, come on in and talk to us. Denzel, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and shout out to Tawana.
Right?
In so many ways. I'm doing well. You know, it's 35 days into the election at this moment. So sleep is of a premium. You know, zipping across the city, but I'm doing well. I'm really thankful for the place that we're in, place that I'm in, and I'm grateful to be here with you all.
Yeah, we're happy to have you in the studio. You're a habitual guest, but we've never had you in the studio. Right. So this is great.
Yeah.
And you know what? You don't look tired. And your shoes.
Y'all need to see this man's shoes.
Exactly, his shoes.
Thank you.
And you know, you looks like you know,
his beard all trimmed up, lined up. Give me $20.
Come on now.
It can't be $20.
I have to keep some normal. It's some norm in life. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the barbershop.
I'm going to groom myself and I'm going to wear nice shoes.
Really nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, it's good to see you. And we got a lot of questions for you. So, buckle your seatbelts. This ain't going to be the walk in the park. But it's time for our new segment, Hot Takes, where we run down some of the week's top headlines in the city of Detroit. Hot Takes. The Scene reunion celebrates Detroit's dance history. Now, Donna, this is your generation, right?
It is.
Talk a little bit about this, Donna. Talk about the Scene. My dad was a dancer on the Scene.
The first day of the Scene, my sister was a dancer on the Scene. So, the Scene means a lot to me. I knew a lot of people who were regulars on the Scene. It was just a great time growing up in Detroit because we didn't just have Soul Train. We had the Scene.
The Scene.
And the Scene was us. I never was on the Scene, but my understanding is the room looked really large and it was a really small room where people were in there dancing. I don't know if your dad shared that information.
It's on YouTube. I can see it, but he's never talked to me about the studio configuration.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great. And it's interesting. I always get excited about that because we talk about Detroit and a lot of people, I was just talking about this in my class this week. When you look at Detroit, a lot of times you look at Detroit through the prism of problems and deprivation.
Yeah.
And you don't have an understanding of Black joy. The fact that we love being
Black
Detroiters,
right
okay? There's nothing like the Scene to remind us that, whenever I see Fast Freddy anywhere and you see him everywhere.
To this day.
I'll be at Easter Market and there is Fast Freddy and he is doing something. The Scene really is central to who we are as Detroiters in my age group. And certainly some of you because your parents or aunts and uncles were there.
And giving platform to what we now know as techno music and house music at a time where it was still, sort of coming into its own, right? Giving platform to that it's just beautiful. And during the De-Electricity Festival this past weekend, the original organizer and showrunner for the Scene decided to do a reunion and recreated the Scene in Beacon Park over the week. And so many original dancers and things showed up. Bridge Detroit was there and chronicled a little bit of it. So you can go to bridgedetroit.com to see the full article authored by our colleague Bryce Huffman.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the Black folks that came. I mean, all the aunties and uncles was out there, Denzel.
I saw some
of them could still move.
You know what? Listen.
One of our colleagues in PR, David Rudolph, was on the Scene. I'm like, what?
There's some lost dance art forms. We were very inventive. Jitten was a thing when I was young. Errol Flynn. The way we used to dance in the city of Detroit, nobody did it anywhere like we did here.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the snake and all of the dances we did as young people, come on now. See, the snake brings you into the Scene territory, but we were Jitten and we were, Errol Flinning before people, before the Scene.
And y'all passed that on to us because you couldn't tell us nothing on Saturdays at Skateland in the corner jitting without our skates off. I mean, we was getting it.
But you drop a handkerchief on the floor?
No, we didn't do that part.
You pick it up. See, there's a piece of that lost art form that you will never understand. Did you wear jingle boots and the like? So anyway, no, Black Joy. I'm really excited that happened and wish I had been there, but I was playing grandma.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we got to hear about Luna. How old is Luna now?
Luna is 3. She'll be 4 on December 5th. And the best thing about it is that when you ask her how old she is, she'll say, I'm 3. How old, when is your birthday? December 5th, I'll be 4. So she can tell you that. And it's so exciting to just watch them grow.
A brainiac like her mom and her auntie. You just got to love it. Hot Takes, Shahida Mosey. Owner of The Right Productions celebrates 25 years in business. This is being reported by Jasmine Barmore at the Detroit Free Press. And I wanted this in Hot Takes because, Donna, you said something about Black culture and capturing Black culture for such a long time. And if you know The Right Productions, you know that they are the operator of the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater, formerly known as Chene Park. And who curates in a better way than Shahida and her team the Black Summer Experience and Fall Experience in the city of Detroit, going to Shane Park or the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is, my entire life, it has been legendary. That blue drink at Shane Park is legendary. The all white Will Downing concert where the aunties and uncles are in their linen. In their linen, going to see Will Downing on Wednesday night is a staple. And the woman, she was at Mackinac. I had the opportunity, as I do every time I see her, to just thank her, right, for being an integral piece of what is now a part of the fabric of Detroit culture that is going to concerts in the summer and fall at Shane Park.
Yeah, listen, you go a lot of places downtown. And you go a lot of places in Midtown, you don't see too many Black people anymore. No. But you know what? The Aretha Franklin is not gentrifying. It's still us.
You're going to see us.
You might have some other folks. We are going to be at the Aretha. The concert series, you see some of the same performers every single year. They're always amazing, and there's so much pride and so much diversity of age, and everybody just goes down to the Aretha.
It's like a big old family reunion every concert, because you see some of everybody. And I want to really, one more time, tip my hat to Shahida and her team, because last year was a really, really tough year, right? And they had to give back a lot of money. And as the owner operator, you're on a city contract, right? It's not like Shahida is swimming in dough, like with promotions and having to book artists and pay people and staff these events. You know what I mean? So I know that this past year had been a really, really big and long struggle for the Right Productions. But to see them come back this year stronger than ever, curating once again an amazing summer experience for all of us. Because I sure was there with my mask on a couple times this summer, speaks to, just her ability to persevere. I mean, small but mighty that woman is.
Absolutely.
So congratulations. Happy anniversary. Also in hot takes, Detroit Councilman Andre Spivey pleads guilty to felony bribery charge for help with towing. This is Joe Gullen at the Detroit Free Press reporting. So this is a sad day in the city of Detroit. It's also a sad day, especially for folks on the far east side, where a person that they've been electing for over a decade, since 2009, pled guilty in federal court today on felony bribery. And so what we do know is that when city rules state that you can't stay on council if you have pled guilty to a crime. And so his seat will more than likely be vacated in the coming days. We don't know when the sentencing will be. Prosecutors estimate that he may get, 15 to 30 something months, as well as a $250,000 fine. But once again, another district in the city of Detroit will be without representation for a little bit. We'll see when that happens. But it's a really tough pill to swallow.
Yes, for sure.
So it's really tough for me. I met Andre Spivey when I worked for Youth Development Commission, and just reading some of this is just really shocking to me. When I worked for YDC, we had youth employment, and there was talk about trying to connect our work to some of the city, other city work. And so I met several city council people, and actually the place that he met, the person that he accepted the bribe from, the Side Street Diner in Grosse Pointe, I went there the first time and met with him because he recommended that place. And so, after that, we met when I first got here, and he seemed to listen and appreciate my values and what I was trying to do. He was on the board for the Chandler Park Conservancy, where he has served for many years. I think Keith Jones has represented him. He's fought very hard for Chandler Park to finally get a recreation center, which was included in this year's budget. So I've heard the criticism, of course, but I've also seen him do some good in the community. And so it's very hard when you know somebody as a leader in the community, even when you disagree, knowing that they have taken this turn. It's just really hard.
But isn't that also part of the human experience?
Right.
In that folks do things that are bad, and that are misaligned with our moral values, but they've also done good things. And when folks do bad things, we tend to forget some of the good that one has done. I'll say this. There are two people who wrote a recommendation for me to become a Marshall Memorial Fellow to the German Marshall Fund of the United States. That was Donna Givens Davidson. And it was Councilman Andre Spivey.
Right.
He did good.
Yeah.
He did some good.
And yet, he did not admit to taking a $1,000 bribe. He admitted to taking $35,900 in bribes from an undercover law enforcement agent and a confidential FBI source in exchange for wielding his political influence. He acknowledged that he, over the course of 4 years, I received payments in hopes of helping an individual retain a city contract, Spivey told U.S. District Judge Victoria Roberts. So knowing that, getting concrete proof of that kind of corruption corrodes public trust, and it also corrodes public process. Maybe the person who got the contract, I don't know who it was, but when you have that kind of thing how do you have justice when people are privately benefiting? And so on the one hand, I feel very bad for the man. And on the other hand, I am furious with the elected official who misuses office. And I'm tired of people misusing office. And I'm tired of knowing it, suspecting it, because certainly over the past 4 years, there have been rumors that some people are on the tape. You've heard it. People in the community say, you can't trust these people. And this reinforces that belief because it's evidence of that truth. So, and
it aids in eroding democracy because people will just not participate.
And people feel that's the norm.
Yeah.
And it's never okay.
No.
And then the other thing is that Spivey has a staffer who had, at his direction, met in January 2020 with the confidential FBI source who handed over a $10,000 payment to support a birthday party fundraiser for Spivey. The FBI source and the undercover agent also met with the staffer the following February and provided $12,000 for Spivey in exchange for his influence on city council, according to the plea agreement. So this person who was his staffer willingly carried out these actions, right? But as a supervisor, as a boss, should you ever ask your staff to break the law? Should you ever corrupt somebody who is working for you? There's also this misuse of office in terms of what's happening with the staffer. And I know people will say that the staff person had individual agency, but it really makes me angry when a person misuses their power for their employees, because people want to be employed. And sometimes people want to have prestige. And sometimes people don't feel as though they have a choice even when they do. And so, my prayers for that person. They also did wrong. I don't know who it is. I think I know who it is, but I don't have proof of who it is. But it's, I know everybody who worked in Spivey's office. So whichever one it was, I feel my prayers for them. It's a sad day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a sad day on the east side. So,
and they're all younger than he is. That's the other thing. So it's the corrupting of people who come after you, the younger generation.
Yeah. And my prayers for Eastside residents in District 4 who have to once again endure the trauma of a person that they've elected participating in corruption in this way. More to come on that, I'm sure, in future hot takes. Also, in hot takes, Michigan Republicans aim to restrict school discussion of systemic racism. So under this House measure, this is Bridge Detroit in partnership with Chalkbeat Detroit. Under the House measure, schools will be banned from teaching students that racism and sexism are inherent or that individuals bear guilt for wrongs committed by members of their race. The legislation does not directly mention critical race theory or the 1619 Project, but its language is similar to GOP initiatives in other states that frame critical race theory both as dangerous classroom topics intended to indoctrinate and racially divide students. What in the world? So is this a messaging issue? Is it that we're calling it critical race theory instead of history? I mean, what is it?
They're not calling it critical race theory. What they are saying is that you cannot teach people that you can't teach people that white people or men have committed wrongs or are wrong, and that if you talk about racism, you make it worse. If you just pretend like it doesn't exist, everything gets better. And that's the kind of thing that always works for people in power. If you don't talk about my abuse of power, then maybe it's not going to be so bad. It's when people call people who talk about race racist, and people who criticize them for racism racist and turned it around. It's a sick cultural behavior. And if it was any other nation saying we're going to ban the teaching of history, we're going to ban the teaching of social responsibility, we'd be the first ones talking about their brainwashing, and their schools are, what is the word for it? When you, I can't think of the word for it, when you ban teaching and you control what people,
communism?
No. It's, oh my goodness, when people seek to control what's published or control what's
censorship.
Thank you. I don't know what happens. Sometimes words just go places.
No, it's okay. I got your back, Donna.
Yeah, thank you. Bring that word back, but it's censorship. Censorship, and what we're doing is we're censoring American history because American history is too embarrassing or subverts the goals of people in power who don't want to be held accountable and who don't want social change. So for so long, they pretended like it was the words critical race theory, but it's the truth of the history that they're trying to avoid.
So one of my favorite people in the world was on CBS Mornings yesterday with Gayle King, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he came on to talk about the censoring of certain works of literature, right, that can be maybe included in a critical race theory class, including his book, We Were 8 Years in Power. But Angie Thomas's book, The Hate U Give, is one of the most censored books in America. Ibram X. Kendi and Jason Reynolds reimagined book Stamped for young people is one of the most banned books, and All American Boys is one of the most banned books. What are we
It's no different than it's ever been. If you look at the textbooks that were used when you were in school and the textbooks that were used when I was in school, we've always had that those lies told us. My grandmother, I used to hear stories about my grandmother, my mother's mother, Cheever, who would argue with teachers and say, no, this isn't the truth, because she'd learned the truth, because a lot of us had to do that. If we have to be responsible for teaching our own children what happened, we have to be responsible for teaching the truth. We cannot allow our children's political understanding of the world or their social understanding to be
one-sided,
to be formed inside of racist institutions. And when you look at the institutions that we call public education, those institutions are designed to create what they call good citizens. In fact, that was the real purpose of schools when schools were first formed. What is a good citizen? Is it compliant? Is it somebody who knows how to stay in their place? Is it somebody who has internalized whatever belief system that they want to throw at you? Or is it somebody who stands in truth? And I think in the United States right now, Black people, being a good citizen means not believing in the past. It's the only history that we're not allowed to be taught. We talk about 9/11 ad nauseum every year. We celebrate all of these days, but it's so much more. It's the taking down of the statues and the monuments. It is the renaming Columbus Day. Renaming Jefferson Davis schools something else that people are really reacting to.
Yeah, folks, big mad.
If I can just add to it for us, I also look at the strategy that the GOP is doing, right? I think if you look at where the party is right now, they're coming off this party that Donald Trump controls, right? So they can't run
still controls.
Yeah, still controls, right? They're coming off being opposed to helping people during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? If you look at their actual policies when it comes to the economic well-being of folks, they stand opposed to that. So what they're doing is actually creating a social issue out of critical race theory. And they know that, you get down, and I've seen stuff around critical race theory. Folks say, well, this is taught in college class, in university courses. The GOP knows that, but they know the average voter doesn't know that. So what they're trying to say is that this critical race theory, and you get teachers in elementary and middle school that say, we don't even touch that. We're not even teaching that, right? So now you're having folks energized to run for school board. And then they're going to change the complete way of our whole curriculum, even the very little bit of truth that's taught in schools. Then you have folks running for city councils to ban critical race theory. So it's really a part of their whole quest to retain power because they're losing majority, right? They're losing the white majority, which is their base. So they're trying to find any way to energize them on that.
And, for the past year since George Floyd's murder, year and a half, whatever, it's hard for me to keep track of time anymore. Since then, what books have been at the top of the bestsellers list in the New York Times?
Our books.
The books. How to Be an Anti-Racist was
Ibram
way at the top.
For a long time.
I mean, Ta-Nehisi Coates has been very popular. Then you had the whole 1619
Cast by Isabel Wilkerson.
And then White Fragility. I mean, there's so many books that really, White Rage, so many books that have been, and so much information that's been popularized. It's not about critical race theory. No. It is a boogeyman that they create so they can shoot it down. Over the course of my education.
So great analogy.
Over the course of my education, I read Derek Bell's book when I was in college at the University of Michigan. It was called Race, Racism, and the Law. And people say he is the architect of critical race theory. We didn't call it that. What I did learn was how the Constitution was interpreted by the Supreme Court all over time to see how those interpretations changed with the geopolitical needs of the United States at any given time. To understand how, it was never a moral change. It was always a situational need, or there was a utilitarian value to giving people more rights. You can disagree with that, but, I was reading Supreme Court cases in undergrad. This was actually a law school book, but my professor had me reading this in undergrad and really understanding how to interpret all of these cases over a lengthy period of time. Their argument, their protests don't stand up to any critical analysis of our laws and policy. None of them. And so I think whenever you're afraid of the truth, it shows a weak position. And I think that if the United States really wants to grow as a nation, acknowledging, embracing that truth and deciding I'm going to move on is always the better, response. So we'll see how well these things how successful they are.
All right. That wraps up Hot Takes. If you have pieces that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. For our feature discussion this week, we want to do a deep dive with Denzel McCampbell, who's our guest, about his candidacy for city clerk and what's on the November Detroit ballot. So, Denzel, you're in the hot seat. You ready?
I'm ready.
Why do you want to be city clerk?
So, I've been involved. First off, I grew up on the east side of Detroit, living there in Rouge Park, so in District 7. And as we talked about elected officials, right, and the lack of representation right now, Gabe Leland was my council person. So it's a sad day definitely for today, and we really have to root out the folks who don't want to provide that public service, that honest public service that's full of integrity. But I got my start in work around voting rights and election protection work. I was doing work around making sure that folks on college campuses could vote. Folks may not know, but there are many colleges across the state that they don't have a voting booth on campus. So students have to go into the neighborhood or community around. And when I was actually at Michigan State, I lived in a college apartment, but had to vote in the county to the north of East Lansing, right? So basically being my right to vote was suppressed and really gerrymandered out of having a say in East Lansing and the campus. So did that work. Actually met with folks across the state clerks to say, hey, you had a long line. Let's work to reconfigure your polling location. Or you're requiring people to show their ID when they don't actually have to show their ID in the state of Michigan. So let's reconfigure your poll training, your poll worker training. So that's been the basis of my work before I got into more organizing around equitable development and water and things like that. And what I've seen time and time again in the city of Detroit is that we've had deep deficiencies in the city clerk's office when it comes to civic engagement and administering of our elections. And for me, when I'm thinking about the theory of change in the community and the issues, if we don't shore up our foundation of having folks engage, having folks educated on what's on the ballot, who's on the ballot, what does it mean for them in their daily lives, and also making sure that they can make their voices heard without any issues, we won't be able to push those issues that we care about. So that's why I'm running for Detroit City Clerk, because it has to be a position that folks see in the community. They know who the clerk is. They are able to get the information at their fingertips, whether that's online, on TV, on the radio, in print. But also, we shouldn't be having a city clerk that we see polling locations not open on time, or we see the posting of the hours wrong, or we don't see a lot of education out what's on the ballot, right? You know, we had the issues with the unbalanced precincts. And what I want to stress to folks is that we did vote in Jocelyn Benson to make sure that folks have increased access to the ballot, but we shouldn't gloss over that in November 2020, our elections were ran by the state of Michigan. And we elected a city clerk to run our elections, and that city clerk has failed to do so to a point where the Secretary
they were
of State...
run with help from the state of Michigan, right?
Yeah, it's with help.
It was with help. Okay.
With help.
So I
want to talk real quickly about that, though. August of 2021. Last year, for the November election, I, signed up to get absentee ballots, no excuse absentee ballots, and I wanted to get them every time. In the, for the primary in August, I did not get an absentee ballot. My husband did not get one. My mother did not get one sent to me. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm not on the rolls anymore. But then I got an absentee ballot sent to me for this November election. And I'm wondering, what was the breakdown? My mother has never not voted absentee in the past 20 years. And yet she and my sister didn't get ballots. My husband and I didn't get ballots. Was there a failure to initiate the process then? And was that failure intentional to suppress voting during this election period where you had low voter turnout? Or was it just a mistake?
You're not the only person, right? I talked to Congresswoman Tlaib. She sent in her application to get a ballot. She never got it. She had to do it again. I had to personally deliver applications to senior voters who voted absentee every year, as your mom did. So I hope that it was not to suppress the vote. I hope that there was mistakes done in the office that didn't get the ballot out. But either way, any way that happened,
incompetence or intention,
right? And both of those have to be rooted out of the city clerk's office, and that's why I'm running for Detroit City Clerk, because we have to have the processes in place, right? What folks may not know, when you send an application for an absentee ballot, that goes to the state of Michigan. The city clerk gets it, and then they process through the state of Michigan, and it comes back, and you sent your ballot. So it's the clearinghouse that goes to the state of Michigan to put in those checks to make sure that you get it. What happened with folks, they sent in their application and it never came up on the state's database.
I filed on state's database
and
last year. I got it for November.
Right.
But I didn't get it in August. And what I'm saying is I was already in the database at the state level. So the city didn't have to send anything in. The state had it. Apparently the city got it. I signed up for ballot tracks. So when the city actually sent me my ballot, they sent me an email and a text message saying, hey, we're about to send you your ballot. That process was not triggered in August. And I think that, when people talk about 14.5% of Detroiters voter and Detroiters being irresponsible, I was on my way out of town. I was gone in Florida on August 3rd. I had to make the decision, you know what, let me hurry up and remember to vote before I go out of town because I'm going on vacation. How many people would have voted had they received a ballot, because we also had the consolidation of precincts. We had changing of voting precincts, and you got people who don't have cars. So
got to figure that out.
We've got to really think through the whys behind people not voting. And I'm interested in knowing how you would help motivate more people to vote so we wouldn't have such low turnout.
Absolutely. And I definitely look at it in those two ways, right? I look at it in the why and motivating people, and I look at it the processes. And one of the things that I want to do on day one in the Detroit City Clerk's office is look at, one, you talk about polling locations. At 7:45 on election day on the August primary, I was at Greater Grace. And there was a lady that came up. She was getting off of work. She voted at Greater Grace for years before. She said, I'm just going in to vote. I'm in and out. I know who I'm voting for.
That was a quick ballot.
Exactly. She went in, 7:45, polls closed at 8. Her precinct had been moved and she hadn't been notified. Right. I talked to a voter in Southwest Detroit. They used to vote at Western High School, Western International, and they got changed to a church that was around the corner. And then this time in this election got changed to a church in Delray. And folks know, and if you by Clark Park to get to Delray, you have to do some maneuvering. It's about a couple of miles to get down there. So one of the things that I want to do is actually do an audit around polling locations, making sure that our precincts are actually in the community, in the polling locations are in the precincts that are there, right? There's a mosque near Davison. There's a polling location, but the precinct there doesn't vote there. So those are issues when we talk about accessibility, right? That we have to look at. And I know it's hard to get buildings, but it's about common sense and making sure that we actually do the work to get those polling locations in the right place.
Talk to us a little. So you're talking about accessibility, you're talking about engagement, but and all of those make sense to me around the clerk's job to run elections or oversee that. But the clerk's job is much bigger than that.
Oh,
can you educate our listeners on what the job of the city clerk is?
Absolutely. So we talked about, like you said, elections, accessibility, education. The clerk is also the clerk of the council, the city council. So I don't know, for folks who are listening, you may see the clerk does the roll call. That's an employee of the city clerk's office, right? They're the clerk of the council. The agendas, the city clerk's office prepares that. One thing that's missing is the record of the vote of city council members. If you try to go online to see how folks voted, it's very hard for you to do so. Basically impossible. What the city clerk has said is that you can call down to my office and we'll get the information to you. We've spent millions of dollars on IT upgrades. Remember when there was that big infuse of money to update our IT system? Why can't we, with a click of a button, get our votes for city council? When I watched the LA City Council hearing on the live stream, you'll see their names come up and they'll say, here's the agenda item, here's what they're voting on. And one by one, you'll see how a council person
on their local channel, like our local channel.
We should be able to do that. And that's what I want to do. So that's another role. The clerk is also the record keeper of the city. So when we're talking about ordinances, making sure that our ordinances are updated and accessible. When we're talking about when there's an amendment to it, make sure that that is reflected. There's sometimes that I've gone on the city's website and where I forget, Municode is where you can view the ordinances. There's missing ordinances there. So we have to have someone to go through of that. There's still records that haven't been digitized that should be digitized, right? And I'm not saying this is the employee's fault, right? But we have to have a city clerk that has the mindset of leadership to say, we have to change this. We have to come into the 21st century so folks can have access to the information. When we talk about the raids on city council people's houses and the offices, when we connecting it to the towing contracts, right now we can't go back to see how those votes came on any towing contract. And we should be able to do that in the city of Detroit, because when we have more transparency, that increases accountability and it helps to root out corruption. So those are just some of the other issues. And the last thing I'll touch on, because you did ask me about civic engagement and what I want to do.
Yeah, because your website calls for a complete overhaul of civic engagement.
Absolutely.
So tell us what you want to do different.
What I want to do is create what I call a civic education core. And this will have folks in every district working with community organizations, faith institutions, unions, stakeholders, block clubs, neighborhood associations to develop a program that we will go throughout the 4 years. It's a 4-year term. Our goal will be to knock on every door in the district to ask a simple question. What issues are important to you, And do you know how to engage at the ballot box? And the reason why I say those two questions is when we ask someone what issue is important to them and they say recreation, we can then say, okay, did you know your city council person, the mayor's administration develops the budget for the Parks and Recs department? Here's their number. Here's their contact information. You want new equipment in your park or you need more upkeep? Here's the Parks and Recs department that you can call them. Because what we're doing is giving folks the tools to be engaged.
Because people need to know who to go to for these issues.
And giving them the tools to have their own agency to make a decision in city government. And then to say, if you like the way things are going, here's a way how you can make sure it continues to go at the ballot box. If you don't, here's a way to hold them accountable at the ballot box, also at city council meetings. Because what we're doing in that aspect is increasing civic education, but again, giving folks to be engaged in the issues that they care about. We're not saying that you should care about this. They're telling us, I care about this and I want to be engaged and hear how
in the democratic process outside of elections, which is dope. It sounds expensive though. So I want to talk to you. I want to talk, that sounds like, there's a cost implication there. So I want to talk to you about how the clerk's office is funded, right? And how our elections are funded. And is the funding for both tenants adequate for the largest voting block in the state, the largest city in the state?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't think it is. And
so let me add this nuance. If it's not adequate, just to play devil's advocate, is Janice Winfrey, the current city clerk, working on shoestring budgets, trying to make a miracle happen and just haven't been able to?
I'll put it this way, Orlando. People not being mailed their absentee ballot on time is not related to budget.
Okay.
Polling locations not open on time is not related to budget. Going to media outlets to run PSAs, to have ads and things like that is not related to budget, because media outlets are willing to work with folks to get their information out. I have not seen one article with the current clerk quoted to say there's an election coming up. Here's what the ballot proposals mean.
Well,
that doesn't cost money.
So speaking of ballot proposals,
hold on, Donnie. Hold on one second. Right. I want him to explain the budget. So what I'll say, the funding. Yeah. While
I'm running for Detroit City Clerk is one, to fix those issues, but to use the platform to say we need to invest more in civic education in our elections and in engagement. We're not seeing that from this current Detroit City Clerk. What we've actually seen, I don't know if you remember that half the drop boxes were taken up in the primary election. The current clerk said that was a budget constraint, but we didn't see anything of saying I need more money before taking up the ballot boxes, because what a lot of folks don't know is that Republicans changed the law about the drop boxes to make it cost more to put them down. So if you take them up, you're going to have to spend more to put them back down. We need that proactive work to say we need more accessibility. Give us more money to do.
And who is that advocacy to? Is that to the mayor's office? Is that to the legislature?
Both. It's to the mayor's office and city council, and to the people. We need a city clerk that will communicate to the people to say, here's what's going on. Because then what you'll have is folks say, yeah, I want a ballot box. It's still the pandemic, right? I want to be able to drop my ballot off there, right? And the last thing I'll say on the budget is that we just saw the city clerk go to the city council and say, I need more money on the elections. This happened last week. We are 6 weeks away from the elections. This should have happened way before. This should have happened. And if she did, and I'm missing it, during the American Rescue Plan funds, we should have saw more of a drumbeat to say we're not funding civic engagement or elections as we should. And that's why I'm running for Detroit City Clerk, because I do feel it's not funded enough. And we need to use this platform to do more about it, and we need to hold folks accountable with that.
But don't people benefit? Doesn't the existing administration, don't incumbents benefit by low voter participation? If I'm an incumbent, the last thing I want to do is help people who don't vote, because that might, that's not me. If I was running, I would want people to vote, because I think I'd be really good if people want to vote for me, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, talking to the folks, right? But if I'm not talking to the folks, and if I might have some, unusual relationships with some towing companies and be cutting these backroom deals and do other kinds of things, and I don't have a vision for $6 million in overpayment, repaying the taxpayers, the last thing I want to do is to get this, disgruntled voter to the polls. because they may actually try to change something.
Absolutely.
And I think that we also have to acknowledge that some of these things just happens when you have fiefdoms that form inside of communities, and the fiefdoms are self-protective and they watch each other's backs, and we got to break into that, break that up. And so I have a question for you that I'm going to ask after I ask this next question, because I actually tried to vote, so I was so excited. I got my ballot. I was like, I'm voting now, right? So I'm going through my ballot, and I thought I was done. So first I read about an entheogenic plant, and do I want to put
entheogenic
or whatever it is? I don't know. I was like, I don't know what this is. Entheogenic plant. What is this? And then I had to Google it. I was like, oh, mushrooms,
it's shrooms,
and other psychedelic drugs.
Psychedelic. That's where is that?
So
sorry.
So I'm like, okay. And I don't even have enough information on why I should do this, who wants it. I'm, imagining, is this for some of these new Detroiters who want to come here and have a little fun? I don't know what the value of this is. And there could be something. I read somebody say something about rituals. But to have this on a ballot with no explanation and no knowledge, when the marijuana ordinance was going on the ballot, everybody read. Mm-hmm. But this was one that just slipped up there. So I'm like, okay. And then I turned the ballot over, just happened to turn over, and so, ooh, there's another proposal. And that one had me stumped. So I'm going to read this proposal and ask you to explain what it means. This is Proposal S, Amendment to the City Charter. Do you agree to amend a provision of the City of Detroit Charter to amend Section 12-101 of the Charter that restricts power from the voters to enact city ordinances for the appropriation of money? The amended section shall read, the voters of the city reserve the power to enact city ordinances called the initiative and the power to nullify ordinances enacted by the city called the referendum. However, these powers do not extend to the budget, and the referendum power does not extend to any emergency ordinance. The initiative and the referendum may be invoked by petition as provided in this chapter. So I read this 3 times, and I was like, huh? Mm-hmm. And then, there was like this, in one section we say call and the other one called. Should they both recall, or should one be past tense? I was just confused. So I said, let me look it up. So I went to my favorite place online. I went to the clerk's office, nothing. I just Googled it. And when I Googled Proposal S, I got information about Proposal P. I went to Ballotpedia, nothing. There's nothing anywhere that explains me what this means. So I was really confused. Like, if I vote yes, does this mean that since we cannot impact the budget, that somehow this is going to disempower voters? Or if I say vote no, not understanding what the charter already says, does this mean that I'm going to stop an initiative to empower voters? What does this mean? And it felt unfair to ask a voter this question. And mind you, I'm at home voting absentee with Google in my, my computer on my lap, looking it up. What about the average voter? Is this how democracy should happen, where people just guess?
No.
I guess this is what that means.
Does it?
So what does it mean?
So the aspect that's missing out of that ballot question is actually getting rid of text that's not there. And the text that is getting rid of is the text that puts a ban on voters collecting petitions to appropriate money. For example, right now in the city of Detroit, if a group of folks want to get together and run an initiative to dedicate $10 million to affordable housing, that will actually be against the city charter, and they would not be able to, because the current language says these referendums and initiatives can't have impact on the budget, nor can they appropriate any money. So this would get rid of that ban. What makes it confusing is that it doesn't say what's actually being crossed out.
But it also says these powers do not extend to the budget.
Yeah,
How
so
do
they
you
can't
appropriate money without changing the budget?
Right, and I think I think, and I'm not sure what the folks who are pushing that, I think what they're trying to walk the line there is not to so much tell the administration, city council that they must do something, but to say this is the will of voters that you actually appropriate this money to do so. And what is related to is related to the reparations push. And then this is my conversation with Todd Perkins, who was part of the group pushing that, is that if there was someone to collect signatures to say we want to allocate $500 million to reparations for Black Detroiters, they could do so if this actually passed. If they did, would the city council and the mayor would the mayor be responsible for including that in the budget? Not with that. It wouldn't be responsible. They wouldn't have a directive to put it in the budget. They would have a directive to find a way to appropriate it. So that's where the conundrum comes in there. So, I'm not sure how it would come out in practice, but that's my understanding of what that proposal will do. And
Attorney Todd Perkins, we're inviting you on this podcast.
I would absolutely have him on.
You're invited.
I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's confusing. I think that even with your explanation, I'm confused about what power people really have. Will have the power? Is it still a recommendation? If somebody has to find a way to appropriate it, and then it also says it does not extend to emergency situations. So could the city say, "Well, we're in an emergency situation, therefore we can't do it"? What is the practical effect of voting yes on this?
I think that last part for the emergency situation is that if there was an emergency ordinance in place, we couldn't run an initiative to end that emergency ordinance. I think that's what that aspect of the language.
Like we experienced during the COVID times. So let me ask you this. What is this to make way for, right? There was a report on Fox 2 that talked about this particular proposal sort of making way for citizens to be able to advocate and demand avenues for reparations. Right.
That's my understanding of it. Because right now, what's also is on the ballot is a proposal to create a reparations task force.
Right.
That's at this point, all we could do as a citizenry is actually collect signatures to create the task force. We couldn't say this will create a task force to then allocate $500 million for reparations.
I hear you. I think that some of this needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Living in a state where emergency management has been called and emergencies have been declared without clarity around what an emergency is doesn't give me comfort.
At all.
Dealing with a city that says that they could not pass the charter revisions because it would create a financial emergency. It would also lead to financial default. Even if you pass this initiative saying $500 million, I can imagine not really having the power to enforce it. And so, and I think that the language is so unclear. So I think it's a good start. If it passes, I think there's a lot more work to do. I hope you agree with me.
Oh, I do.
And that we need to make sure that citizens understand what they are voting for beforehand. And I don't know how to do that in the time we have.
And, I think that last part is also a key aspect, is that, we're sitting here, and as I told you all, I've read the charter so many times as a charter revision commissioner, and I had to go back and read that multiple times, right? We had this with Proposal P. We didn't have any type of information from the clerk's office with Proposal P. It doesn't take much to have, even on the website, to say, here's what this proposal will do. You're not swaying anyone either way. But if you have a proposal in the most layman's terms, right? If you have for example, the shrooms ordinance, there's just language that says this would decriminalize possession of these substances such as shrooms, right? For Proposal S on the appropriations, just layman's terms to say this will allow residents to have an initiative to appropriate money, right? Even if it's still confusion, right? But it's still and for the reparations task force, this will create a reparation task force to do X, Y, Z, to have the summary. And we have an election commission that they do it on the state level to say this summary is good, this summary is not good, this summary is confusing. Let's make sure that it's applicable to the people and understandable. we can do that, and we're just not doing it.
We need summaries.
If I didn't want people to vote for something, I'd let them stay confused. And so that's another use of power, the power of language. I have a question that I really want to ask you, because I think about how elections run in this city. And, you know, sometimes the first time is the charm. And I am really, really crossing my fingers and doing everything I can to make sure that you make it in there.
Thank you.
But you're a young man. And certainly if you don't make it in there this time, between now and the next election season, there will be another opportunity. Is this a one and done kind of thing, or is this a commitment on your part to push this envelope and to work with the community to make sure that the second time is the charm?
Where you going to be at after the election?
Yeah.
If you win, we know you're going to be in the clerk's office, but if you don't, where you going to be? You ain't going to disappear on these folks, are you?
And, go on.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. And you know, I'm doing everything I can do to be victorious on November 2nd. But I'm not going anywhere, no matter what happens, right? I think you know, we first met with Congresswoman Tlaib, and we did more work with the Charter Commission when I was on the Charter Commission. I'm committed to the city of Detroit, and the reason why I ran for city clerk, right, is that I saw that this is an office that can have profound change in the way that we do things in the city of Detroit when we talk about the issues that we all care about. I'm committed to doing this work whether I'm in the city clerk's office or not, right? And as we talked about the civic education corps, and you said, well, that sounds expensive, right? There are ways that we can do that right now.
Exactly.
With the infrastructure that exists, right? With the groups that exist, with ECN, with the folks that are having events with folks that are going door to door, that can happen now. And I'm committed to seeing that through because I think that's how we're going to increase turnout in the city of Detroit.
Exactly. So that between now and the election, if you are not successful, and I'm hoping and praying that you are, if you are not successful, we can build something, because we had Citizen Detroit, and that's, you know, whatever. But I think that, listen, I think that when somebody who is leading a so-called nonpartisan effort sues to stop people from being able to vote and says, I'm trying to increase voter education, you have violated your office.
That's why we are authentically Detroit, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, listen, I'm
not mad at the comment.
Lawsuit. You know what I'm saying? This is not even a lawsuit. This is just a public opinion. But here you have a person who is leading a nonprofit who enters into a lawsuit. She could have stayed on the sidelines. We don't need you here, ma'am. There's people who really do have a partisan point of view. I was really offended by that. And so the issue is, one time a couple of years ago, Orlando, you remember this, I decided, you know what, people don't really understand how the city works. I don't understand government. We're going to just do a government class. So I got the city organizational chart. And we had a community education series. And I said, it was a series. This is what the mayor does. This is what an executive does. This is what the council does. This is what your judges do locally. This is who works in every department. And this is who works in the state level, so that you can understand where and how decisions got made. And it was really, really popular. People loved it. I gave it to the people at Citizens Detroit. They said they wanted to work with us on it, and we were going to try to grow it. But, you know, I'm a person who has a lot of ideas, and there was no place to plant that idea. I really think that there is a need, even if you get the right person in the clerk's office, for community organizations to come together to support that. If you can't get the money through the clerk's office for us to try to get philanthropy to invest in civic engagement and voter education,
democratic participation,
in an authentic way, right? In a way that really is trying to empower people and not steer them into a certain outcome.
Right, exactly. And I'm dedicated to doing that. And I also, one last thing I want to touch on for Proposal S, what's so interesting about this, and this is the aspect that I focus on, is that in reading that Fox 2 article, you probably saw that they had to be sued to get on the ballot.
All right.
And the things that went into that, they collected the signatures, they turned them in, and the Election Commission voted not to put on the ballot. Ty Perkins sued. And what was so interesting is that the elections director submitted an affidavit, sworn affidavit, saying that they were missing a page to say what it would do. But the page was there.
It was there.
It was there.
Yeah.
That's a sworn affidavit.
And I know Attorney Perkins is going to challenge that.
Absolutely.
And when you say the elections director,
the City of Detroit's elections director.
Who is that?
I think her name is Gina Avery.
Mm-hmm.
She submitted an affidavit. So for me, and I put out a public statement on this, is just to say, why did that happen? Did you miss that, or was this intentional? And that's the thing what we have from folks with the lawsuits around Proposal P. Folks are just, why can't I have a say on democracy? And that's the issue that I'm seeing with the city clerk.
Well, you can slow down the process, though, because if I make you go to court, I can slow down the process. So there's no time to educate and get voters to support something. For sure.
We're running out of time, and I always have to be the timekeeper and get folks back on track. Denzel, would there be a debate for the clerk's race between you and Clerk Winfrey?
I hope so. There is not scheduled yet. I'm going to continue to push. I'm actually reaching out to WWIB and WXYZ to see if they will do something and invite her. I'll tell you that we had a forum scheduled for this Sunday, and I just got word that it got canceled. The organizers didn't tell me why, so I'm going to follow up to see.
The organizers canceled?
Well, they let me know that the event had been canceled because some things fell through.
Okay.
There was another forum that was being planned with various members of the media, and that fell through. That was declined by the current clerk. I am open and down to debate because of this simple thing. I'm running for Detroit City Clerk because I think we should have an inclusive democracy. I think everybody should have a seat at the table. And a democracy will only thrive with the increased access to information. And debates and forums provide the information. If you the current clerk has been in office for 16 years. You have a record, run on it, talk about it. If it's not the best record, then maybe you shouldn't be in the seat.
All right. We will make sure that we issue an invitation to Clerk Winfrey to join us on the podcast. Since we invited you on the podcast, we always want to try to stay fair and balanced as possible. If you have topics that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Authentically Detroit, or email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Announcement! Ding, 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 ding. Authentically Detroit will be celebrating 100 episodes. Hey, by hosting an in real life District 4 City Council debate between Letitia Johnson and ML Elric at Eastside Community Network on October 14th at 6 p.m. You'll be able to stream it live in partnership with Bridge Detroit and the Detroit Free Press. Congratulations on 100 episodes, Donna Gibbons. Hey, we did that, and it's a real race in District 4. So I'm really excited to be moderate. So this debate is going to be moderated by Donna Gibbons and myself, and we don't play. We're going to be rules. We're going to keep it tidy. We're going to keep it right, but we're going to get some answers.
And we will have live audience, but the live audience will be selected by the candidates. And those people who come, we are not here to cheer people out or shout people down. We really want to hear what people have to say.
And we will strictly enforce that.
Detroiters, we will. You know, we had to let people know we don't play here at ECN or at Authentically Detroit. We will, and we're experienced at letting people know what is allowable, because it's so important that the information get out. And ultimately, we want people to vote based on policies and issues, and not vote based on, a lot of name calling and other things that may happen in other places.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great forum. It's really a tight race. It's looking like it's going to be a tight race in District 4. Also, Donna and I went to the Mackinac Policy Conference, and we had some amazing interviews that we will be releasing this week. We interviewed Dr. Andre Perry, author and researcher at Brookings, the author of Know Your Price. Right? You may see some familiar names in that book, Denzel, if you pick it up. One of whom is sitting in the room.
Emmy Award-winning Orlando Bailey.
We interviewed Angelique Power, the new CEO at Skillman Foundation. We can't wait for you all to hear that. And Dewan Dandritz, the CEO of Black Leaders Detroit, who rode his bike up to Mackinac, right? And I don't understand how he wasn't noodling around the island after a 5-day trip, I think. We also want to shout out WDET, one of our partners, a really great partner of ours, for their support of us in Mackinac, and our producer Matthew, who was the JG in Mackinac for us. Thank you to Jake and Anna Marie for making sure that we could capture moments on the island. And stay tuned for more information about the partnership, the budding partnership between WDET and I think Authentically Detroit. It's going to be some really cool stuff coming up as we head into after 100 episodes. That's amazing. I can't believe we've done this 100 times, Donna.
I know, right? I just want to shout out a couple of our award winners at the Eastside Extravaganza.
Yes.
I want to shout out our Eastside legend, the Honorable Alberta Tinsley Talabi. I want to shout out our Truth to Power awardee, and I'm sorry, our Marlo Stoudemeyer Eastside legend. And that award was co-presented by Valencia Stoudemeyer. I want to shout out our Maggie DeSantis Truth and Power awardee, Kat Stafford.
Unofficial co-host here at
Authentically Detroit. I think I was so excited by her excitement that it really was contagious. Our corporate champion, which was actually our presenting sponsor, and a bank that's really making a move in the city of Detroit, and that's Huntington Bank. I'm really appreciative of the fact that they are working to better understand how they can help address some of the, critical race history.
And we're trying to get them on the podcast, so stay tuned.
We will get them on the podcast. Great people, and they showed up. We actually had to give them extra seats. So we had many other volunteers. We will bring up some of those, awardees. The final, I don't have the list in front of me, and I don't want to forget anybody, but we will give shout outs to more of the awardees next episode.
All right, stay tuned. Denzel, you got shout outs?
Shout out to y'all for 100 episodes coming up.
Oh my gosh.
I truly want to say thank you to you both for the conversations that you have, for actually talking about the issues that we may not hear about in any other place, right? So I wanted to shout out to y'all for all of the work that you are doing. I'm really grateful for it. I'm grateful to be in this space with y'all and to have the opportunity to come on multiple times to talk about these issues, because we don't hear about these conversations in many other places. So thank you. My shout out is to y'all. And also shout out to my team for all the work that they've been doing for the last several months. So thank you.
I have a question. Yeah. I'm sorry, Orlando, but you have a guy on your team who I think I see at Bert's warehouse all the time. Is he a trumpeter? You don't have a musician on your team who I see out there?
No.
I've seen in pictures somebody who looks very much like a trumpeter at Bert's.
Really?
And I was told he was a political activist at the trumpeter. And so I said, maybe that's where he's politically active. But anyway, okay.
Oh, maybe. There's no one on my team, but maybe you're like a volunteer or something.
Maybe a volunteer.
Okay.
I mean a volunteer.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll have to double check. Yeah.
If so, that's really, really cool.
Yes, absolutely. Because, so, we talk to folks, but I didn't know... sometimes, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm a trumpeter. I'll have to check into that for sure.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Denzel, for the shout out. And thank you all for listening. We want you to catch the wave. We'll see you next time.